Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
How about that, folks? I'll bet everybody recognizes that voice. Well, this voice, mine, is George Armistead, and this is Life List, a birding podcast. I am here with my co-host, Alvaro Jaramillo, and our special guest today, a voice that scarcely needs an introduction, Greg Neise from the American Birding Association. Greg, Al, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, good.
Very good. Very good. Very happy to be here.
Nice. Yes. Fall is underway. Fall is happening. Birds are migrating.
Yeah.
Here in the Great Lakes, I mean, it is full on the best time to be birding in the fall. And this is my, I love spring migration, but really I like fall in a lot of ways better because it's not so fast. You know, birds tend to linger and you spend more time with them, I think.
Yeah.
And so fall is definitely here.
Yeah. High time, the way I got it figured. Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of birders who are kind of in the, experienced birder sector like fall more than they like spring. They like spring as sort of like eating candy. It's really nice, and you do it every so often.
Yeah.
But
That's a good
fall,
analogy.
Yeah. Fall is like, a really great, well done meal.
Yes. That is sharp, Al. Yeah. I like
That
it
is,
a lot.
boy, you're exceeding my expectations here, Jaramillo.
Yeah.
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 Sometimes,
Every now and then.
something will come out of this mouth that is
I know.
of value.
I mean, we're like a full 3 minutes in and you haven't mentioned boat or storm petrel yet.
It's
I
impressive.
know.
We're getting there. Don't you worry.
Or pizza.
Yeah.
Or pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we do, Greg, before we
Yes.
do, I think we should give you a proper introduction. It's just,
Oh, yes.
I feel like a lot of folks will know you through your work.
All right.
at
Now you're
ABA.
going to make me blush.
No, of
Go ahead.
course. That's part of the plan. I love that on the ABA website, your title is one word, web czar. Web czar. You're kind of the master behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to a degree as well at the American Birding Association, based in Chicago, birding since the age of 13, and a serious birder for a long time. Spent a lot of time in the Lincoln Park Zoo working there, and I think volunteering even, right? Before you started working there, you've done a lot of photography and work for different magazines and newspapers over the years, and worked with the Rainforest Conservation Fund for quite a while. Now, how long, Greg, have you been at the American Birding Association?
Well, you'll remember, George, that you and I started there on the same day.
I do remember.
It was, what was it, 2011?
It was 2011. It was April of 2011.
April of 2011, the Elenia.
That's right.
So it was April of 2011. I had never met George, and we met standing in line to get on the plane at Midway Airport, going to our first staff meeting in Colorado.
Yes. That's right. And I remember looking over and I was like, I think that's a guy, Greg Neise, that got
Well, and I said the same thing. I'm like, well, we kind of knew that we were going to be in line for the same plane, so I was kind of looking for you, but
Yeah. And then I think we met maybe on the plane or maybe just before we got on or right just before we got on.
Just before we got on, we got seats together, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, of course, it was Southwest Airlines.
Yes, that's right. Southwest, boy, yeah. Yeah, and then, very soon thereafter, we're in Colorado Springs for like a day or something, right? And all hell broke loose in Chicago with that flycatcher. Pennsylvania.
That was one of the most frustrating days of my life. And not only because the bird, I mean, an absolutely stunning bird, showed up. That was the first, would it be first North American record of short-billed Elenia? I guess it was.
Yeah, small-billed Elenia.
Or small-billed Elenia, sorry. And showed up in a city park in Chicago. And it was, the first picture of it was posted on the Illinois Birders Forum. And young Nathan Goldberg, at the same time that you and I were looking at it, I looked at the picture. We're sitting at dinner, and I looked at the picture, and I'm like, I held up my phone, and I showed it to George, and I'm like, what do you think that is? And he's like, that looks like an Alania. And I'm like, yeah, that looks like an Alania. And then Nathan Goldberg posts, that's an Alania. And then all hell broke loose, because you remember that was the Illinois Birders Forum days when IBF was the most heavily trafficked birding website in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And my hosting company shut me down because of all the traffic over that one bird.
Wow.
And I remember driving around in the mountains trying to get a signal, calling my hosting company, please, I'll pay whatever. Just don't shut me down.
Don't you understand? It's a small-billed Alania.
And it was originally identified as a least flycatcher with reservations, right? It's like, this is a really weird looking least flycatcher or something.
Correct.
So they knew in the field that there was something wrong.
Yeah, it was,
but they didn't know what to call it, essentially.
Exactly. And
and it was the kids, right? It was the kids. Birders.
It was the Gyllenhaal brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not kids now; they're full-grown adults.
No, they are most certainly not. I mean, they're. I'm not going to say a word, but yeah, they are definitely not kids.
Yeah.
And to bring that story to a close, a couple of years ago, I got the second one in Chicago. And managed to pick that one up. That was in December. Well, actually north of Chicago, but close enough.
And I remember the discussions were,
heated
they were
vexed. Heated and vexed.
Yeah, and kind of cutting edge where we're trying to figure things out on the fly from other parts of the country. And I came down I remember it was like, the one that's expected is Chilean white-crested Alania, but I actually think this is a small-billed Alania.
I remember that
at the end, And
no, I will give you props, credit where due. You were the first one to call that correctly as a small-billed Alania, and there was a lot of argument that went on for a long time. And what's interesting is that bird stuck around for so long. It was there for a week.
What? Yeah.
It was there for a week, and there's thousands of photographs, like point blank, in your face, frame filling photographs of it. And with all those photographs, you put them together as a conglomeration, if you will, and look at them and compare them to photos of Chilean white-crested and small-billed, and it's obviously small-billed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in that time, it was
It was too earth-shattering.
Nothing was very obvious.
It was too mind-blowing.
I mean, there was one record of an Alania, a white-crested from Texas, and then the Caribbean species in Florida, which is a different thing.
Yeah,
and since then, there's been like 4 more small-billed Alanias or something.
One in California, one in Canada, another one in the Chicago area, and
one in Montana or something.
And then there's I think there's 5 total.
Did you say the Atlantic Canada one? There's like an Atlantic Canada one that was banded, I believe.
I think that's the one from Ontario. I didn't think it was that far east, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It may have been Western Quebec. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But I'm not sure. Yeah. That was
so. Anyways, that was the story of my meeting George.
Yeah. I remember sitting there looking at that picture with you, and it was the first time I met Nate Swick, and we were sitting there, and like I was like, man, I was like, if I had to guess, a small-billed or a white-crested, not sure which. And then like all the discussions started to churn, and I think it still never ended up as that particular bird never ended up being accepted as small-billed.
It was
okay. It did.
It was accepted. One of the great things about it took a long time, but one of the great things about the Illinois Records Committee is that we have Doug Stotts, one of the authors of Birds of Peru, on the committee, and he, as well as Alvaro and a bunch of other birders,
it was small-billed,
were able to chime in on this board, and then IORC accepted that as a small build, and then ABA committee re-examined that bird and agreed.
Nice. So that wrong was righted.
That wrong was righted.
Nice.
Along with the hooded crane.
It's bound to happen eventually.
Which I also saw.
It is a good lesson in the fact that vagrants often people say, "Oh, these vagrants and all this stuff, and who cares? It doesn't matter." But there are a lot of things to be learned from vagrancy, and sometimes some of the top level ID learning happens when some weird bird shows up where it shouldn't be, and then people are like, "Well, how do we know it is A versus B?" Right?
Then you really
Yep.
got to look at it. Yeah.
Then you got to
Yep.
really look at it and figure it out. You know,
And you know, it's the field guide model, and this is something that I deal with because of what I do for a living and part of my daily life. You know, the field guide model of examining a bird and portraying a bird species versus the photographic models, which is, you know, Sibley does an incredible job of illustrating what that species looks like, the range of individuals, the gestalt, you know, all of it. He does an amazing job at that. But then, like, you start looking at pictures. Like, I've got a new birder friend of mine here, Tom, who's sending me pictures of birds he's photographing, like in his afternoon walk, blackpoll warblers, you know, common birds. And you look at these things, I'm like, oh boy, I can see how that just throws off even like intermediate birders because they're so ratty and they don't look like the field guide. And so then you get a vagrant that's worn and everything else, and it's like makes it that much harder because the stakes are that much higher.
Yeah. Hey, this brings up the whole another thing related to the ABA is your site, the Facebook site. Is it called? What's this bird?
Bird?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's this bird?
Which is one of the coolest things the ABA I think has done in recent years. Like that thing has generated an incredible number of cool records, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, you know, and that's something
strikes again.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
And that's you know, that's
like
kind of where I was going with when you started talking about vagrants. This is a discussion that we have a lot. Are there more vagrants or are there more people taking pictures of birds? I think the answer is absolutely there are more people taking pictures of birds.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even a question anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
There's never been
really,
more people.
what is the best rare bird that has been spotted on What's This Bird? Do you remember?
Depends on how you qualify that. I think there was a sharp-tailed sandpiper that was the first record for Michigan.
Oh wow.
There have been, oh boy, that's the one that sticks out. You know, we did an article in Birding. I wish I knew you were going to ask me that question. I would have looked it up. We did an article in Birding about that.
It's the litany of good birds that's come out of
not so long ago, but yeah, there have been a lot. Most of them at the state level. I can't really think of any that are at the ABA level, but there have been things like, you know, like brown boobies and things like that. Like, hey, I was out at my dock on my little lake and there's this bird sitting there. What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
In Minnesota. It's a brown booby or wherever it was.
By the way, did you guys hear, you probably did, that the Pennsylvania great American flamingo, Greg, I'm sure you would have heard. I don't know if you would have heard Al, but there's some birders checking out the American flamingo in Franklin County, Pennsylvania. I think it was yesterday morning. And they're sitting there, you know, inland Pennsylvania, which is all inland, but like way, you know, western central Pennsylvania, this Franklin County American flamingo, and they're sitting there and an adult brown booby flies over them. Like, if you had told me 20 years ago that somebody was going to be looking at an American flamingo in Franklin County and that a brown booby was going to fly over it, I would have said you were mad. It's like, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
Although it does remind me, speaking of those kinds of events, because, okay, I think personally, I don't use unprecedented when it comes to vagrant birds because you can shoot fast and loose with that and we use it way too much. But the flamingo thing, that's really unprecedented. In my lifetime, and as far as I know, something like that has never happened. But it reminded me, what you just said reminded me of, I think it was in the 80s, late 80s. Andy Sigler and Bob Hughes were driving up Lakeshore Drive in Chicago on their way to go for a phainopepla in Milwaukee. when a gannet flew over their car.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw that in Ontario just the other day. A Manx shearwater went by Hamilton, Ontario. There's weird stuff happening that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not quite understanding if any of it's connected. Like what's this brown booby doing out there? Was that just random?
I think it's just
Is
random.
it-
I mean, at this point, those things basically can show up anywhere, almost any time.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I saw a photo of some guy went up. I think it was in Oklahoma or Kansas or something. Some guy's working on a windmill, goes up to the top, opens the little door, sees this bird sitting on one of the motionless blades of the windmill, takes a phone photo, and it's a brown booby. Like hundreds of miles inland. Just like those things, it's just what's happened there is remarkable. It's crazy.
I mean, everything from Elenias to boobies, birds are expansionary. That's what they do. I mean, that's why they dominate the planet more than any other group of animals. I mean, even to a certain degree, insects and things. I mean, they're at the poles. They're all over the place.
Yeah, with climate change, everything's changing around us, and there's more people looking than ever before, and there's digital photography. So it's there's a lot.
But the way they move across the planet, I mean, just thinking about common birds like golden plovers. I've been watching that Jeff Wells on Twitter has been tracking, I forget what the organization is that's doing it, tracking American golden plovers outfitted with transmitters on the north coast of Alaska. And they're flying along the north shore of the Arctic Ocean to the Atlantic, and then down out over the Pacific to get to South America. And first of all, first thing I thought is, okay, well, that's how the East Coast gets all their Pacific golden plovers. And then I have to imagine that those birds, when they're coming back up, they come up through the central part of the United States, because in March and April, we just get boatloads of them in Illinois, and we don't really see that in the fall.
Right, the American
golden plovers. Yeah,
American golden plover. Yeah, we have yet to find a Pacific here, although I had one that was pretty interesting.
So, Greg, just before we, I think we got some other stuff we want to chat about. But for folks that might be interested in What's This Bird, that's a Facebook group that is run by the ABA. If they want, like you guys do some What's This Bird live, which I suspect some of our listeners might really get a kick out of. Maybe you can tell folks about how they can find that and participate.
Sure. Just go to aba.org/live, and all the past episodes are there. It's an hour-long show that Nate Swick and I, we pull interesting pictures for whatever reason we might think they're interesting, usually about 8 to a dozen of them. And then we discuss the identification. And I'll throw together some comparison pictures to show, like last time, we were talking about thrushes and comparing gray cheek to Veery to Swainson's and all of that, and kind of get in the weeds. And usually once or twice I try to find a bird that I think Nate and I are not going to agree on, because that just makes it all that more saucy and interesting. Yes. And also, if you want to get notice of those, at the bottom of every page in the footer of our website, sign up for the Flight Calls newsletter. And you can actually all of our newsletters.
Yeah.
And you'll get notice the morning of when we do it, as well as advance notice beforehand.
Nice. One more note on the flamingos too, Al. You and I had been talking about when we were on with Molly, and apparently, Al, they did. I don't know if you saw Jeff Boughton, who we had on the show just a couple weeks ago, but he posted that they had, like 20 states now, I guess, have had flamingos, and that I think they have put transmitters on several. I don't know if it's 2 or 5 or what. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with those birds. And I think the coastal ones, you figure they've got a little bit more of a shot of getting where they need to be. Who knows? It'd be wonderful if they were able to
that's
put
a question
transmitters on any of the inland ones. I don't know if they were able to do that, but some of those were banded, I think, too. So maybe that'll help.
Having worked in a zoo for a long time, flamingos, despite how they look, are ridiculously hardy. I mean, none of these birds it's very different from like when tube noses get tossed into lakes and inland, most of them, I think, die. They just, there's no food that they know how to eat.
Right.
But flamingos, if they don't freeze, they can survive and they can find food. And I mean, you remember that one out west that was, I think it was called Pink Floyd, that was in the Great Basin bopping around. I think it was a Chilean or a lesser flamingo escaped from a zoo or a collection, but it bopped around the Great Basin for years. And
there's one here now that's been here for over a decade in the Bay Area.
Oh, in California, right?
Yeah.
I would guess
Right,
the Chilean ones are a little more adapted for cold. I would guess, but who knows?
Very hardy people. Very hardy. And birds.
Set them right up for that, didn't we? We let it. We walked.
Yeah,
right
we
into
did.
It. Mm-hmm.
They're funny too,
and good looking as well.
But I
don't know about that. But
I really think this flamingo story is happening in real time, and this story has a ways to go, and it would not surprise me one little bit if there is a new breeding colony established somewhere in Florida.
Well, that'd be cool. That would be
awesome.
Yeah,
that would just be awesome.
Yeah. Nice. Well, switching gears a little bit, Greg, one of the things that we wanted to chat with you about, because we mentioned it, we kind of got into it, we dabbled in it, right, Al? A couple, I don't know, it was months ago now, was fantasy birding, you know? Yes. Yeah. But we got a lot of feedback. We got a lot of feedback from folks that either were participating or were curious about it. Yeah.
And I was on a boat trip the other day, and very experienced birder, one of the trip leaders, he said, "What is that? Never heard of it." And somebody else is like, "Well, I do it." I still think that even though, like, for the ones who know and fantasy bird, it becomes a huge part of their life. I don't think they realize that the average birder has no idea it exists, and even a lot of birders who are experienced have no idea that it exists. And I think they want to know what it is, partially, like what it is. How would you describe it?
Let me see here. I got to get back to you guys because I just popped up my fantasy birding screen so that I could reference it while we were talking.
Right, because you probably have a ranking there, don't you?
I do. I've been doing the big year. Well, I've done a few games, but I've been doing the ABA big year now since it started. So I think it's in its third or fourth year, maybe more. I'm currently ranked at 31 of 152 people playing that particular game. My number of birds seen for the year is 795, but I think I have a couple of provisionals. Actually, no, I've only got one provisional, which is the golden crowned warbler currently being seen in South Texas. Yesterday, I got the Baikal teal on St. Paul, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So,
how do you get these birds?
Exactly, that's what So fantasy birding is the brainchild of Matt Smith, and the way you play is you drop a pin on a map, and it draws I'm going to have to look here because I can't remember I think it's a 5 kilometer circle. It might be 10. Let me see if I can pull up the
but it's basically a set circle, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the diameter or the size of the circle doesn't matter for this conversation, but you get a circle that's a set size. And then when people submit eBird checklists, using the eBird API, well, whenever they do it, same day, it does it in real time.
Okay.
So it just accesses through the eBird API. It accesses all these checklists for all the hotspots and checklists submitted within your circle. And then you get to count everything that's reported within that circle for that day. And you have to place your circle before 6:30 in the morning on the day of in the time zone of. So, if you're playing in Hawaii or Alaska or whatever, and you're in Chicago like me, you got a few hours in the morning where you can kind of play with where you're going to drop your circle. So if a total of 150 species are reported within that circle during that day to eBird, you get 150 species. And in the beginning of a big year, it's fairly easy to rack up a bunch of species. Go to South Texas and Warbler Woods and Florida and California and Alaska and a few places. And by May, you can get up 600 without any problem. And then it gets tricky. But just like with a real big year, as Sandy Comito said, the number one rule, chase every rarity. That's going to make the deal. So you got to watch, and you got to watch as many rare bird alerts as you possibly can. Although Fantasy Birding has, what do they call it? An ABA hotline where I think it's code 3 and up, or maybe it's code 4 and up, are reported in real time. And it actually highlights the birds that you need. So it's like you can, and click chase, it'll just drop you right on where that was and you can chase it. So there's some tools built in there so that you can, have a little bit of guidance in placing your pins.
So can you switch your pin anytime or just once a day?
Just once a day.
Okay.
And so your 795 that you have right now is for the ABA area this year?
Correct. And so where it gets tricky, so the way to think of this is, at least from my perspective, it's one thing to know where the birds are, but that's not going to get you any birds. You got to know where the birders are going to be, because there's got to be somebody there to record it into eBird. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like I spent 5 days trying to get California condor at Pinnacles and actually, and more than that, Pinnacles and in Arizona.
Nobody
just
there.
Sitting there waiting for somebody to submit an eBird checklist, and it took 5 days. So that's the kind of thing where, and then in the fall, like right now, it's like, okay, do you play Gamble or do you play St. Paul?
Right.
And
or even something like Cape Cod or something, if there's been a one day wonder of something crazy, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's, so, and then, places like Hawaii get really tricky, because now you've got to, in order to win or get the birds, you've got to pay attention to the tour group schedules. And you've got to really pay attention to pelagic trip schedules. I thought that there was a searcher trip going
last
on
week.
Yeah, there was
one last week on the 10th. But I'm queuing up an example here of how you can get messed up. I'm just waiting for my calendar to load here on Fantasy Birding.
Yeah, the searcher. Yeah, that's a 5-day trip for those of you who don't know. Going
right
to San Diego, that does this, big offshore Southern California trip once a year. Not very many people, because it's a boat that can only take about 20 or so, I think. But it did go last week. I do know that.
Actually, it was early this week. It was the 10th.
Must be a different one, right? Or
no, there's only one.
Oh, there's only one per year. Okay, I thought.
Well, I mean, and maybe I'm still waiting on birds, because I thought that trip went the 4th through the 7th.
They're back. I know they're back, because I know people on there.
And
Chris
if you
from ABA was on.
If you look at the eBird checklist, there's checklists from the 10th that say they were on the searcher. So I'm not sure if that trip got pushed because of weather or something else or whatever. But that's one of the pitfalls. Is you go through and you drop your pins where you think these boats are going to be, and in the case of pelagics, you get 2 circles. I think you get one that's 50 kilometers and then a second one that's 100 kilometers. and it automatically grabs anything within the 50-kilometer circle because boats move around. But there are pelagic hotspots, so you want to make sure you get the pelagic hotspots in your circle. But then
We don't use those.
you can.
I was just going to ask you, Alvaro.
But then you can manually. So if you know that there was a checklist submitted within your circle that didn't show up, you can enter the eBird checklist number, and it'll parse it, and it'll check it and see if there's any birds in there that you missed, and it'll put them on your list. So that extra 50 kilometers, you get to do that. So if somebody like Alvaro, doesn't want to use the hotspot, he goes 25 miles away or 50 miles away or whatever. If it's still within your circle, you can still get that checklist after the fact.
What's the furthest?
And for the entire year, you can go back and recheck any day, because sometimes people sit. I've had that happen so many times where you go back and you click recheck, and whoop, I just got a new bird from like 6 months ago because somebody stuck on it. A lot of people won't submit checklists until they have photos. So they sit on it until they go home and they process their photos and upload their photos.
What's your pelagics? What's of the routine trips you do? What's the furthest, most mileage that you do, and how far is it
from shore? Probably about 30 miles.
Okay,
from shore. Yeah.
Now,
but it's a lot of fun. It can be very frustrating, but in a good way, I think. But I'll tell you, the number one things that I've taken away from fantasy birding, and this is something I didn't expect, is I know more about the status and distribution of birds in the ABA area as a result of playing this now for 3 or 4 years than I have learned so much. Like, I know all the hotspots in Hawaii, like I've been there. And
that's cool.
It's like I can pull up a map and tell you exactly where to get us. Yeah, exactly. I can tell you exactly where to get the sand grouse and where to get the laughing thrush and all of that.
Greater necklace laughing thrush. That's
exactly
one of the trickiest ABA birds, probably. Yeah.
Exactly, and I understand the difference in the populations and the status and distribution of birds in the Huachucas versus the Chiricahuas, just from chasing these birds on fantasy birding. So that was a really unexpected bonus.
I was going to ask, like, as a devil's advocate, like, what's the point of all this, right? Because we are so much into birding outside, real birding, but that's a great point you make. That in a sense, it's you can be low commitment. Click your spot every day and see what happens, or you can do a little bit more and learn more. But it doesn't mean you can't go birding, outside either. It's not like one or the other.
No.
Right?
I mean, I spend maybe 10 minutes every couple of days dealing with fantasy birding. Well, I mean, because you've got a strategy. I know where I'm going to be. I know the birds now that are going to be tough, that aren't necessarily rare, but they're hard, like Connecticut warbler. And but if just pin the Chicago lakefront the third week in May and just watch, you're going to get one. So you learn those kinds of things. But the trick and the people who really excel, the people who win every year, are the people who, and this is, I haven't had time. I'm going to try it for next year. Is they create a spreadsheet of all the pelagic trips, all the tours, so they know where the chicken trips are going, and those are the tours that go looking for grouse,
chicken runs,
and exactly the chicken runs in the West, the tours to Hawaii, all the pelagic trips, and any other tours, and they put those all in a spreadsheet and pin those ahead of time, and you can every tour company has a detailed itinerary of where they're going to be day by day. So you just have to guess it. Now, of course, they change their itinerary because of weather. They make an audible. You're screwed. And that's happened to me many times. but the people who are really on the inside, who know like when the researchers are going to be out at Shemya and that kind of stuff in the Aleutians, those are the people that win every time because they just have access to information that the rest of us don't have.
So you're $795. A couple questions. You're $795 in ABA for this year currently. I'd be curious to know who's in the lead, what their number are, and maybe what the all-time record is for fantasy birding within the ABA area. And also, I assume other people can do this within their state potentially, not just.
Yes,
ABA.
there's a lot of games. I mean, I had to pick which game I wanted to play, and that's the game that I play every year. Right now, the top 10. So my goal is just to get in the top 10. I've made it. The closest I've gotten, I think, was 11 or 15. Right now, my buddy Ken Wysocki is at 823. There are no real names here. But there's one. Ethan Goodman is in the lead. He's at 834. Jason Sardell is right behind him at 834. Then there's a bunch of others whose names I'm not sure because they have names like Falconidae and Limnothlipus and Guy Incognito. They're all up in the 820s. Yeah, they're all up in the 820s.
Gotcha.
And
Actually,
it also tells you,
George, didn't you live next to Guy Incognito?
It's true story. I had some neighbors named their last name was Incognito, and my parents said that they were, one night told me and my sister they were going to the Incognitos for dinner, and we were like, WTF? Like, why don't you just tell us?
So yeah, I'm like I'm like 30. I'm like 40 birds or so behind the leaders. And the leaders are all ticking like 109, 112 rarities. I think rarities are code 3 and up.
Where are you seeing this? Fantasybirding.com?
On the fantasybirding.com.
Okay.
In the game leaderboard.
So,
and I'm at let's see, where am I? I'm at 90 rarities right now.
Do you win anything? Is there like
you get a fun little badge. And bragging rights.
So it's not like fantasy football where people like put in $5 and then
not yet. There may be behind the scenes that I don't know about.
George might be into this.
No, he's got that Jones, man. If it ain't no cash involved, he ain't doing it.
That's right. Everybody knows that.
But and we've also done like local big days. Like we did a state of Illinois big day once. Like we picked a day, it was like May 12th or May 15th, and had a bunch of people and just
what the returns were.
Yeah, and the big day, the way Matt, I like doing the big days, and I mean, you guys know I'm not to toot my own horn, but I think I've done more big days than just about anybody in the ABA area, and I love doing big days. And so you set your day, and you have you can have unlimited points during the day, but you can only go as far as you can reasonably drive. And so it takes into account the Google Map driving times. So like, let's say you're doing Illinois, which is almost 400 miles long, and you start in Chicago and you decide to go to Southern Illinois. Well, that's going to eat up 5 hours out of your 24-hour day. And you have to take that into account when you're putting this together. And the circles are smaller. But, you can have as many circles in a day and they're all chained together. And then if you're smart, like the one thing I have won was when I was captain of a big day team. And we put together a team and we did a North American big day. And I forget what we came in at. It was like 3, I forget what it was, but it was a good total of birds. But our route went from east to west for the most part to take advantage of the setting sun because you have more daylight as you go west.
Here's a question. Like I mean, I don't know the numbers of actual true big days in my head. It's not, but do the fantasy big year birders tend to see more than the real big year birders in terms of numerical? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Let's see here. The current, let me pop up listing central here.
Because you just said something like 800 and something, right?
So the ABA area year list record is John Weigel at 840. So yeah, I mean they're
close,
right,
pretty close.
Yeah, so I mean 2016 John did 835. 2019 he did 840. Right now all the leaders are at 835. So yeah.
Okay, so they'll do better given that they still have several months.
Yeah, but you see now it's, I mean, I've still got a lot of code 2 and 3 birds that I can pick up. So I mean, looking at my list for the year, I've got, let's see, unseen by rarity code 1. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 code 1 birds I haven't seen. Things like greater sage grouse, purple sandpiper, American dipper, Harris's sparrow.
These are so code 1 for folks that don't know is like basically a routine breeding bird or resident bird within its range within the United States or something like that, right?
Yeah.
ABA, right?
Yeah, that's
area.
reasonably that's expected to be seen. And then code 2 unseen, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 32. I've got 30 unseen code 2s.
I forget how those
now
differ.
Some of those.
I forget how code 2s differ from code 1s.
It's sort of the difference. It's the difference between a LeConte sparrow and a Baird sparrow, basically. Okay. In terms of how easy it is to see or how hard it is to find it and get to
like
it.
Black rosy finch or something. Would that be a code 2?
I'm not sure because I don't have that in front of me. But like the difference between LeConte thrasher and sage thrasher.
Who decides at the ABA what
the ABA
codes...
checklist? The ABA checklist committee.
Oh, I'm on that. I should have known that.
Yeah, well,
second time I've done this on the podcast.
Yeah, welcome to my world, Jaramillo. Welcome to my world. But so I've got 35. I've got like 40 birds I can pick up if I do it right. Now, some of these code 2s ain't gonna happen. So like a kiki, Maui parrotbill, that ain't gonna happen. That's a different conversation. But other ones, and grayback tern, I missed that one, so that ain't gonna happen. But other ones like dusky grouse, gray partridge, Nande parakeet, boreal owl, I've still got time. Now the guys, the people who have like 835, they've got all those birds. So now it's who's going to get the most rarities.
Mm-hmm.
And as Sandy Comito said, it's all about the rarities.
Right. And how good a year it is and all that. So so reviewing the codes
exactly.
real quick, I just pulled those up. Code 1 and code 2 says these are regular breeding species and visitors. There's no firm designation between 1 and 2, except that logically code 1 species are more widespread and usually more numerous. Code 2 have restricted range in the ABA area, but are widespread but occur in lower densities. Code 3 is rare, so that's a species that occurs annually but in low numbers in the ABA area. Code 4 is casual, which I always thought was a funny word for a status or abundance code.
Yeah.
But it basically means still really, really rare, with 6 or more total records, not recorded annually. And then code 5, right, those are the really biggies, right? 5 or fewer times ever in the ABA area. Then there is a code 6, which a lot of people don't think about, but that's stuff that is extinct or extirpated from the ABA area.
Yeah.
So
California condor was code 6 until recently.
Yeah.
Hey, talking about weird words, have you ever noticed that we say a bird is local, right? Or it's local in distribution, whatever. But British people say localized.
I've seen
and
that.
I've never
Oh. Well,
understood.
la-ti-da, whatever.
I don't know, man. That sounds
Oh,
wrong
boy.
to me. Localized.
You struck a nerve there, Al. Yeah.
I don't know. It's
there's a great line. There's a great line from, if you haven't read it, boy, I can't recommend it any more highly. There's a easy read by an author named William Least Heat Moon. It's called Blue Highways, and basically his life falls apart, and he jumps in a van. His wife leaves him. He loses his job, and he just has nothing. And he gets in this beat up old van and drives around the United States on the back then in the 80s, 70s. The highways on the map, you remember the maps, the local highways were all in blue. So he just drove those blue highways until he ran out of money, and then wrote a best-selling book about it. But he was in New England, and he's talking to somebody in New England, and he's trying to pronounce the names of the towns, and he's like not getting it at things like, Worcester and stuff like that. And so he points to a map and he goes, "How do you pronounce this?" And he's pointing at Puget Sound. And that guy goes, "Puget." And then he says, "Ah, boy, if Niagara Falls was a few hundred miles east, it would be pronounced Niffles."
Yeah, localized.
They also say aluminium over there,
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's different. That's different spelling.
that's because they eat too much of it.
Yeah.
No, but actually localized is the more proper word, I believe.
I don't know about that.
Well, I feel like there's sometimes where it's not one is better or the other. They're both like, there's some words, right? There's examples where they're both equally correct. It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be the first person to say I am not a wordsmith. I can write, but I rely on people like Ted Floyd and Frank Izagiri to make it functional.
Those guys are some proper wordsmiths there. Yeah.
I just remember like doing the field guide, some of that stuff for the website and so at field guides, and we would get some from the British guides, and I would always change that word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's still to this day.
You got to change your spelling of color and humor as well. Yeah.
That I'm not worried about, but it was like the localized never made sense to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but we get so many great birding terms from the British, like twitch.
Stringer was theirs originally, right?
Oh, well, I didn't know if you were going to go there, but George, you and we've talked about stringers a lot.
Yes, there's a very, very rich topic that I feel like it's so negative but so juicy that I do feel like it deserves its own episode at some point. It's like really good.
Yeah, and it's it's not going to go down that rabbit hole.
So, okay, fantasy birding.
Yes.
I think it's interesting that people do it, but I am totally not, like, nothing in my mind gets, let's say, ooh, I should try this. Like I have no, like, nothing. I mean, I get nothing, but some people do, right? Some people get everything from this, right? They're really they like the competition, the whole thing. And what would you say if you had to think about the people who do fantasy birding? Is there anything that ties them together, competitiveness or being interested in distribution or whatever? I mean, I think I know part of me is because A, I don't have very much time usually. B, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it outside. Part of birding for me is being outside, And
right, I get that. And I do most of my fantasy birding in bed at night as I'm getting ready to fall asleep. Yeah. It's like one of the last things I do, or like if the dog gets me up at 4:30 in the morning and I can't go back to sleep, I'll pop up fantasy birding and just check to make sure nothing was reported overnight that I'm going to have to jump on before 6:30. But as far as So, I mean, the time commitment, I don't think really is that big of an issue. Once you get at the beginning, it's kind of overwhelming. I'll be the first to admit that, because you just you got to figure out the way it works. And the strategy, I think, is pretty simple for the big picture. But when you get down to like, okay, I want to be in the top 10, now the strategy gets interesting. And I find that fun and interesting. But I'm also a guy who one of the main reasons I did so many big days is because I love strategizing the big day. I like figuring out how to put that route together and make it all work. It's not about the competition for me so much. Like when one of my big day partners would get furious when we'd be like within 5 of breaking a record and we just couldn't do it, and he just drove him nuts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We just had a great flipping day of birding, and you're angry. No, that's not the way this works. But some people are like that. But that's not me. I'm not competitive in that sense. Although I will say, when my 2 Illinois big day records were broken last year, it did kind of. Oh, I didn't cry, but it stuck a knife in me a little bit.
I think you cried.
I think you cried.
Maybe a little bit.
He's
maybe
crying right now, actually, folks.
Yeah, we do have video on, don't we? But no, but for me, the thing that appeals to me about fantasy birding is the same thing that appeals to me about doing big days. Is you have to strategize, you have to look ahead, you have to like figure out, like, I mean, you guys know all about the chicken trips, all about the pelagic trips. I mean, Alvaro, you could, one of the hardest things to do is pelagics, so you would excel at it, because you could just count your own birds for a large part. I mean, seriously. Yeah. A lot of the guides do that. Like, I think the top 10 is mostly professional guides, and they do a lot of, they're out there. They know who's where and what's happening. But so that's what and then the secondary thing is, like I said, after doing it for a year or two, you really, I have learned so much. And that was the huge unexpected part of this, is that, I know where the guys doing surveys of Baird sparrows are in Montana and North Dakota. Like, I know where they are, and I don't know when they're going to do it, but I know where they are. And I didn't know that 2 years ago.
Right. But I should also clarify my issues. A lot of people know about my issues.
Some of them are very obvious.
I don't know if we want to go down this road,
but abundantly obvious. Yes. Yeah.
But I'm the kind of person, if there's a big party going on or something like that, and somebody brings out the board games, I'm like, okay, I'm leaving this room right now.
I'm with you on that.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not a game player, right?
So we are all simpatico there. I do not do board games.
Okay, so you don't have to be a game player.
But having said that, I do love to play chess occasionally.
Right.
But no, board games, like somebody pull a Wingspan. I have a copy of Wingspan on the shelf that still has the cellophane wrap on it.
Dude, we tried and failed. Like, I got together my stepdaughter, who's, she's sharp as a tack. My nephew, also extremely smart. Me and Kristen, a few other people, we tried. We like took it apart. Couldn't. And everyone I know loves it. They got
same here.
They get together. They have the big parties. Like, and I think it sounds like the key is you got to have someone explain it to you. But I failed miserably. I will say, Greg,
but also you've got to have that mindset about playing board games in the first place.
Yeah, and you see, I generally, at a social situation, if we're like at a party or something, that is not when I want to play board games. If it's like me and a friend or two hanging out, I would think about it then. But or like family gatherings, I'm game with it then. But I do, like, I actually had almost no interest in this prior to us discussing this. And I don't think I wouldn't have any interest in doing the ABA area personally, but if it meant I got to dig into the state of Pennsylvania or the state of Maryland and really try to do that I would dig, because like that would unearth, nooks and crannies that are nearby that I might actually go to, and then be like, okay, people are getting these birds. And then maybe I'll go check these spots out. So the state level does appeal to me. And I think this is the kind of thing, as you've detailed it, Greg, that I could actually fit into, like as you say, the wee hours as you're waking up, as you're trying to go to bed. Like I enjoy Wordle. I love the New York Times spelling bee. I play the birdiegame.net. If people don't know birdiegame.net, that's a pretty fun one, little photo quiz that, and basically I have a couple friends and we basically text on these 3 games every day, who's doing what, we see who's done well, who hasn't done so well, who's excited, who's frustrated. And it's, that's fun. I enjoy that. And I could easily see including this in that kind of routine.
Yeah. And that, it's kind of like set it and forget it for 24 hours. Okay. So you spend a little bit of time thinking about, all of us, our jobs, our lives, we're aware of what birds are being seen. We know this is, what we do. So for you and me and Al, that part of it's not too hard. It comes naturally. It's what we do anyways. So it's taking a few minutes every day to check some things, make a play, put your pin, and then forget about it for 24 hours and then come back and see how you did. And then either leave it or make another play.
Yeah, you're sort of planting the seed and then coming back and seeing how it's grown.
Seeing how you did.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's been more fun now since like somebody I see on a regular basis, my friend Ken, he started doing it and now he's up there with me. And so now we've got sort of this thing, and he's beaten me because he's one of those guys that will spend an afternoon.
He's just better, I think.
He is just better. He's a lawyer. He's got a better mind than I do, but he's one of these people who will sit down and will spend some time putting everything into a spreadsheet and coming up with a strategy and following that strategy. And when it comes to that, I'm going to try that this fall and try it for next year because I just lose track. I'll start like digging in and looking for all the tours and everything, and then I get distracted. And that's why I like big days because you're just doing it on one day. And I'm like, okay, I'm putting this together. And well, of course, a physical big day, I think 2/3 of the fun is the scouting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really enjoy big days as much anymore, but in part because I was like, I just want to go scouting all the time. That's all that's all I really want to do.
That's called birding.
Yeah, exactly. Scouting, that's what it is.
It is, but it's birding with a particular purpose.
Yeah, you're focused.
Like, you're focused on specific species. So like you're looking at a route. One of the things when doing a physical big day is you want your birds to be within a 10-minute walk of the car maximum. You don't want to spend an hour walking you can't waste that amount of time. So you're like, okay, there's habitat here for Bell's Vireo. Let's find the Bell's Vireos. Let's know where all the Bell's Vireos are along this route. And then, to assure that you get one on your big day. And that's the kind of stuff I like, is like poking into new places and like, there should be hooded warblers in this woods. Let's see if there are.
Mm-hmm. Think of time commitment. I should say that in the end, when I actually assess what I do daily, I do spend a bunch of time looking through Facebook and identifying birds. And I love to actually popping my head into things and going, hey, I think this is a this or this is that, where people are asking a question. If it's actually low investment, I do get a certain amount of it's fun to commit to an identification and also help somebody along the way. So, I mean, and I guess somebody would say, well, that's just wasting your time. You can do something more productive. But
it's a good exercise for the brain, and you're helping somebody out, as you say. I think.
You're helping somebody out, but here's
if it's all you do, then that might be a problem. But
well, like I said, welcome to my world. One of the most phenomenal things, besides seeing all the new birders, like just popping pictures of birds up, and they find something, yay, a lifer. I mean, I love it when somebody says, yay, a lifer. I'm like, I will buy every single one of you a slice of lifer pie because you deserve it. Even if it's like your first yellow warbler, that deserves it. But identifying still photos, especially single photos, is way harder than identifying a bird in the field.
Yeah.
And when you do it over and over and over and over, you get better at it.
Yeah,
and
you really do.
I have learned things by dealing with all those photos in What's This Bird that it's added a whole new level of my understanding of basic field identification, because I've spent so many hours of my life looking at pictures of birds and trying to, out of focus, small, whatever, bad exposure, and trying to figure this out, because it forces you to pay attention to the not obvious things. I think the best one was maybe a month or so ago, not even a month ago, on What's This Bird Live. We had a Philadelphia vireo that, because the way the photograph was taken and the way that the color had shifted and everything, I was convinced it was a female cerulean warbler. Now you think, how could that happen?
Oh, in photos,
Well,
almost anything can happen. It's like you can,
exactly.
Yeah.
But then it's like one of those like that photo of the disposable plates. It's like all of these plates but one are upside down. As soon as you see the one that's upside down, they're all upside down and you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
And with that Philadelphia vireo, it's like I was certain that it was a cerulean warbler, but then when it was explained to me how it's a Philadelphia vireo, I could not unsee it. And I'm like, how the hell did I ever call it a cerulean warbler in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of learning that's a whole.
It is, it is amazing what you're like.
Yeah.
Before there was, Google Image or eBird or anything, I worked at Vireo, Visual Resources for Ornithology at the Academy of Natural Sciences, which used to be the largest collection of photos of birds on Earth. And coming like,
I think they repped me for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were. Oh no, I was with Scientific Images. Sorry.
Okay.
Never mind.
Yeah.
They got bought up by Getty. I think Vireo got bought up by Getty too.
Vireo was nonprofit. It was. It's still at the Academy of Natural Sciences, but
is it? Okay.
Yeah. But
anyway,
yeah. At any rate, but it's like I just remember when for 3 years all I did every day was look at bird images all day long and produce them for people as and try to make identifications of new stuff that was coming in. And I do remember how useful that is from an identification standpoint. You really do get tuned in. And
and you see things that you never paid attention to in the field because just the way the bird moves, like an American redstart.
And
you see this bird way up in the top of the tree. And you see that little like side to side butt wag of the big fan tail. Even if you don't see the pattern, you see that little wag. You're like, that's a redstart. And then you get the second look at it and you get a flash of yellow. Confirmed, we're done.
Right.
But then you see that one picture. I mean, that's another bird that female redstart has confused.
Oh yeah.
From the right angle with you can't see any color in the flight feathers.
Tennessee warblers, there's so many of these things that can throw you for big loops. Depending angle and lighting can just confound you in a million different ways.
And just like kind of circling back to the fantasy birding, how it has really expanded my knowledge of status and distribution. Doing What's This Bird has expanded my knowledge of field identification.
Yeah. I've been thinking about every so often in putting together a little video or maybe even a Facebook posting about kind of feathercraft, what I call just the really detailed look at birds that we seem to sort of like weirdly have stepped away from that to some extent. Yet we have photographs now that are so good that people are looking at them kind of big picture, which is fine because that's how you learn most things. But sometimes you got to like drill right into like really detailed stuff and you start seeing things that you've never seen before. Whether it's, the sparrow tertial patterns or the way that the pattern is on the upper wings
shorebird scapulars or Or
or the upper wings of storm petrels, and just to teach people how to look at these things in a sense, because there's some stuff that I see now just after years and years and years, like breeding dowitchers. See a good picture of breeding dowitcher. They're not actually hard to identify. They're actually pretty easy, but you just have to look at the right feathers and look at them specifically with specific patterns in mind, and you can identify. But the field guides haven't done a good job of separating those out, and the articles haven't done a good job. So
Yeah,
it's
and I
just like
don't.
thinking, oh man, there's so much here that some people might get,
And that's a
from
new
just
aspect.
photos.
That's a new aspect. I mean, field guides are constantly evolving, and I think that like for instance, the latest volume version of the Sibley Guide, where he added all the little paintings of alcids flying away from the boat. Like this is the view that you get, the little tiny thing flying away from the boat. That's the view you're going to get. So he did those views of all those in the second edition. There are things that you can see in a still photograph that you almost never see when you're looking at the bird in the field. And I don't know if you mentioned sparrow tertials on purpose, but we discussed that a couple weeks ago on What's This Bird Live, because we had a bird that people were torn, swamp or song. I went for swamp. I think that was correct. I think I convinced people that was correct. A lot of other people thought that was correct as well. But Woody Goss, one of our Chicago birders, has been doing these little ID sort of focus projects. And one of the things he's focusing on is sparrow tertials. And he's kind of discovered that there is a difference that, at least so far, holds across all the subspecies as far as we can see. I mean, he's still got a lot of work to do, but the tertial patterns are different. But it's something that you could never see in the field. You'd have to have the bird in the hand or have a good photograph. And there's lots of good photographs. And
no, there's stuff in there, and if you extend it to some of the grassland sparrows like grasshoppers and so, some of them have really distinctive tertial patterns, and you can identify them just from that when they're fresh. And it's like you say, it's not necessarily useful to you on average, but often you're trying to figure something out that's difficult. You're often a lot of birders are taking a picture and then looking at their photo, like Jaegers. That's, a lot of field idea of Jaegers now is taking a photograph and then looking at that more carefully.
Seabirds,
and that's fine.
Seabirds
right?
helps a lot on a bunch of different groups. Yeah.
It's a new,
when
new way
you're out
to
on a
bird,
boat and everything's moving, it's like, so where the feathers pointed or more rounded, no idea, but my photographs I could tell.
Yeah. It happens. I think there's a bunch of different groups. Like on our Antarctic trip, the prions, right? Like there's a number of instances there. As you say, Jaegers are a perfect example. There's a bunch. Yeah.
Hey,
yes, sir.
Before we shoot off, can you let us know about the ABA Community Forum, which is something brand new that I think is cool and interesting? I've kind of dabbled in there.
Yeah, so ABA members, we have sort of our own social media experience for ABA members. It's aba.org/community. If you're familiar with Facebook, you'll be immediately familiar with community. This is an ABA member benefit. And there's a lot of groups, things like, I'm looking at them right now here. Let's see, there's groups that are active. We've got the American Birding Podcast, Birds in Media and Pop Culture, Backyard Feeder Birds, Rare Bird Alert, Bird Photography. We also have programs and webinars. So we do webinars within community for ABA members. Coming up next week is Wild Stories from the History of Bird Migration Research with Rebecca Heisman. We have forums, which, if you remember the old Birders forums, I think the Bird Forum in the UK is still alive. but the forums operate very much like a Discord server, and that is with threaded conversations versus groups where everything's thrown in. And we have rare birds, we have regional and rarity notables for all the states, provinces, but including Mexico and the Caribbean. Advanced identification, a place to buy, sell, and swap your used gear, all kinds of stuff like that. And there's always some fun discussions happening there. And we'd love you to come be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's a really
and there's a mobile app,
Yeah.
for Android and iOS.
Yeah, it's a good way to have birding communication without also just random external people popping in. Everybody
Bingo.
is a member, and
no bots, no spammers.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's sounds good to me.
Yes.
I've been in there.
ABA is doing a lot of good stuff. You guys do
thanks, man.
Great work, and Greg,
Thank you so
for a
much.
long time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, we do. I will say, I've worked with a lot of dedicated teams of people. I mean, going back to, I was one of the founders of the Rainforest Conservation Fund, and I never thought I'd meet a more dedicated group of people than that. And I have with the ABA. I mean, it's just a wonderful group of people I work with.
Nice. Now you got me crying. Look at me crying.
He's tearing up. He's a big softy. Don't let him try to tell you otherwise. All right. Well, we got to scoot. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Yes. Greg, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Can't wait to come back.
Yeah. All right. We'll do it again. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.